So in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a fit parameter using the measures we have here, then how to build a trend using the line charts, then using the fit parameter to view the line charts, as you can see. So I'm seeing my total revenue by quarter, the trend for 3 years. Then also I'll teach you how to move from this to something like this, a dynamic month over month showing, and the value is showing red when it's a drop and a blue when it's a rise, as you can see. So another thing I'm going to do from here, noticing that this is very close to the top, I want to make sure that it's a little bit down. So take this to something like this. Irrespective of what is selected, our line doesn't touch our secondary axis, right? And notice the month over month is dynamic. If you are new here, kindly subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification so that you stay abreast when I drop my next video. Kindly share this video and drop a like, drop a comment. So let's get right in. Okay, so first thing first, I want to make sure that I have some very important columns on my table. Like if I check my customer, okay, let's check on the dates. We will need the start of quarter, which is also our year quarter dates, then probably the year month. So ensure that you have the start of quarter. So how do you get the start of quarter? Just go to transform data, under add column, under the select the dates column, under the add column, you just select the dates and click on the dates, quarter, start of quarter. When you do that, a new column will be created, start of quarter. So that's the column you use. So we have that already, so I'm not going to create it anymore. So the next important thing I want to do is to create my parameter under the modeling pane. Now one thing that parameter helps us to do is we're able to view our charts with different metric, rather than creating a visual for total revenue, creating a visual for total profits, creating a visual for total products sold or total orders. We just have one visual that you could toggle through using a parameter to view the same one visual. So it makes it very sustainable. So under the modeling, I'll go to the new parameter, then I'll select the field. So now I measure, I already have all my measures I want. I'll just select everything. Key metrics that I want to monitor. So I could leave it as parameter name or give it any name you desire. Make sure the add slider of the page is selected. Let's create. So I close this. Okay, so we have our parameter as a slicer. So I'm going to set that up. Use a single select, very important, so that at all times at least one of the parameter is selected, right? So it's very key for what we're going to achieve. So I can remove the slicer header. Then okay, we're done with the parameter. The next important thing I want to do is to bring out my line charts. So I'm just going to put it on the whole of the page. Now one thing you should notice is that this page is a full width page with a custom type with 1920 pixels. The height is 1080 pixels. So I'm not using the default 16:9. This is a full width page. So I have my line chart here right now also, I'm just going to use my dates. I could use, because we're working with the quarter for this chart because of the width, so I'm going to put my dates as the x-axis. Now note, I put the date hierarchy, which is already by default created for us by Power BI. Under my y-axis, I'm going to put the parameter. Good. You see, it gives us by year. So this currently gross profit by year, revenue by customer per year. You will see the start revenue, that transaction. So what this helps us to do is expand all down one level in hierarchy. That means from the year, we move down to quarter. We'll do this to quarter. If we take it down again, it takes us to the months, takes down to the days, But because of the size of our chart, we want to work with quarter. Right? Now, I think I'm going to need to remove total customers from my parameter. So all I will just do, just to highlight all of this and delete. I don't need it anymore because it's a straight line, so it doesn't add any value. So I think we'll go with this. Let's increase our x-axis. Let's make it 14. Let's make it y-axis 14 also. Let's make it more visible and clearer. So I'm not going to spend time on formatting, just the functionality of this chart. Now we have this already, which is cool. We can see the trend over time. So the next important thing I want to do also again is to bring in the secondary axis. Now, secondary axis is going to be quarter over quarter. So I'm going to create a new measure. I'm going to right click, create a new measure that helps us to calculate quarter over quarter for each of the parameter. But I'm going to start with the total revenue. Let's have the quarter over quarter of the total revenue. So create a new measure. So I'm going to call it total rev QOQ percentage. So equal to. So in my measure, I want to have the current, which is my total revenue. I want to have the previous, which is, I'm going to use the calculate formula, calculate function. So I have the total revenue, then I use the date add. Now always follow suit what we have here. So the dates, we have a date column, like the dim date. Then I'm working with -1. -1 means the previous. -1 means the previous. 1 means the next month or the next whatever I select here. So I'm working with the quarter. If I'm checking for the previous month, I will select the month here. So previous. So I'm going to return. So I need to close that bracket twice. Good. So I'm going to return. I'm going to divide. I want to divide the difference between the current and the previous. So current minus prev divided by the previous. Then alternative results, we will use a blank function. Just give it a blank. So let's see what we have here. So this is the quarter over quarter percentage change. So I'm going to make it percentage format. Good. So let's close. Now, just for clarity's sake, let's bring it out on the KPI. Let's see what we have. So 9.15 total rev quarter over quarter. So I want to see the changes per quarter as we have here, right? So I'm going to delete that. So this under the secondary axis, I'm just going to drag that in. Now it's shown as line, but now one thing you should notice that when you're dealing with quarter on a quarter over quarter chart, the first value is going to be blank because there is no previous value here, but the next is comparing itself to the previous value. So that's why here is blank, but here we have a value. So I'm going to come over to the secondary y-axis. The minimum, I'm going to make it minus 1000, right? The maximum 1. So the next thing I want to do is I could turn off the title. I could turn off the value. I don't need to see this because I'm going to turn on my data label. Now you notice that data label is showing for everything, so I don't need data label for total revenue. I could just turn it off because I already have this to evaluate where I am. So the next important thing I want to do, currently if I select any other visuals, this value doesn't change, right? Because it is not, this currently is the quarter over quarter for revenue, not for average order value or for the gross margin or for the gross profit or for any other selected parameter. So it's just for the total revenue. So I want to make sure that I have the quarter over quarter change based on what is selected here. I'm going to achieve that. So before we do that, I want to give this a coloring. Where we have a drop, it should be red. Where we have an increase, it should be blue or green, anything you desire to use. So I'm going to come to data label. I'll select start rev quarter over quarter. Under the value for the coloring, I'm going to conditional formatting. I'll select a rule. I just need 2 rules. The first rule has to be red. Second rule has to be a green or any other color you deem fit. Now this should be number. This should all be number. So this, just clean up the 0 to minimum value. If the minimum value, if it's based on the minimum value and less than 0, it should be red. If it's greater than 0 and less than the maximum value, when you delete this, maximum value shows up, it should be a green. So let's check it out. Good. As you can see, the drop is a red, the increase is a green. There's a green here, so it tells us how many percentage increase quarter over quarter, right? So we could see that we have the greatest decrease from the first quarter to the second quarter, but the greatest decrease here, while the highest increase is right here from the 2024 quarter 1 to 24 quarter 2. We had a 6% increase in revenue from these 2 quarters, right? So you can evaluate a lot from these 2. So let's make sure that we have this quarter over quarter dynamic. Before doing that, I will need to create a measure to store the selected parameter in a measure. So how do we achieve that? I'm going to create a new measure. I'll call it selected KPI or selected metric. Now one thing you should know is that there's a function called selected value. So the parameter, we have fields, we have order. If we select the field, let's see what we have. Select the field. Let's bring out a KPI. Oh, sorry. I'm just gonna bring a KPI. Yes. Then I'll click on selected metric. Now this more like gives us the name of the metric we're working on. Now let's check it out. If I should switch, you can see that the KPI is switching based on what is selected. But what we want to see is the value itself, not the title. So we'll go back to our measure. Then also, if we are using the parameter order, let's see what we have. The parameter order is going to give us numbers, and it's the number that we actually need. So 0 is giving us average order value, 1 is giving us gross profit margin, and the rest. So basically we have like 8 metrics. So let's see if we use the parameter itself without anything. Let's see what that will give us. It doesn't give us any value, so we couldn't use that. So let's stick with our order. Now from this order, now I'm going to generate my metric I selected. So I want to store this in a variable. I'll call this selected. So I'm going to return. I will use a switch statement to let me see. Okay, if I'm selecting 1, if I'm selecting 0, it should be average order value. If I'm selecting 1, it should be, let's bring this down here so because we could easily so using a switch, sorry, I need this to be seen. Let's just drag this down. So switch, I'm checking my selected, right? That's the expression. So my selected is either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, and the rest. So I'm not going to say if it's 0, give me the average order value. If it's a 1, I need the GP margin percent, right? If it's a 2, I need to return the gross profits. If it's a 3, I need the revenue per customer. If it's a 4, I need total revenue. If it's a 5, I need total transaction. If it's a 6, I need total units sold. So let's confirm if we have everything in check. Have you that value, GP margin, revenue, the customer, transaction, units sold. Okay, I think we are good to go. Else, should return blank. So this helps us to extract the metric that's selected. So let's see what we have. Let's bring out our KPI and select this. As you can see, we are having is changing based on what we selected. Right? So let's take this up. So the next thing I want to do is to create a measure that will give us the title itself. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm just going to create a new measure, paste this. So So I'm just gonna, it's gonna be on a double quotes, average order value. Now, one thing you should notice that the AI can help you achieve this very fast. I'm doing this for educational purpose. Literally, I'm just going to give AI to help me generate all of these measures automatically. So measure 2 is what's gross profits. So I'll call it selected label. Let's call it label. Call it label. Okay. So this is also dynamic. So with this now, I'm just going to rename this title here. How do I do that? Under the cards. Sorry, under the callouts. Label. So I selected metric, then the label. I could use the function as a field value. I'm just going to select the label. Yeah, good. So we'll see it's dynamic currently. So I think we didn't add up total units sold. Why is it not showing? Okay, the error is coming from our parameter, so we'll need to rearrange this. So this should be a 4, it should be a 5, it should be a 6. It's very critical. Remember, we removed the customer total customers, so this should work now. Good. So we have correctly. So I'm going to create the quarter over quarter for the selected metric. So I'm going to delete this. It's quarter over quarter. Let's leave it like that. So for this total revenue, I will replace it with selected metric. Right? Same thing here. So okay. So good. If you notice, it's changing. Now pay attention to what we have here. So we will see it's changing as we select what we select. So this is what we want to achieve, and it's following the trend that it's a drop, give me a red, it's an increase, give me a green. Right now, the next thing I want to do is my data label is not arranged, so I'm going to select quarter over quarter. I'm going to select value. Let's make it 14 also. Then position has to be under. Yeah, perfect. So the next thing I want to do, I would need to remove all of the data label for the line itself. So I'm just going to run through that very quickly. So one important thing I want to do is to add up my average line. So I can do that from the analytics pane under visualization. So I am working with average line, so I'm going to come here, add a line, and we could give it a red line so that we can easily see it. Dashed is fine, scale by width is great. Then data label is showing here. Let's put it by the right and add both the name and the value. Okay, so let's okay. So now we've been able to generate our average line across board. So one important thing I want to do is to add my marker. Could just select for all series. Then let's make it probably 8. 8 is fine. Something like this. Then for quarter over quarter, let's put it off. Good. So let's see. Good. Now one very important thing I want to do next is to ensure that my line is not too close to my secondary axis. Right. So I'm going to tweak it a little bit. Now I'll create a measure that would help me keep a check on my maximum y-axis. There should be some spaces at the top, right? So let's create a measure, new measure. So I'll call it y-axis max. So I'm going to have max quarter value, which is I'm using the max function. So I have all selected the start of quarter. Then okay, let's break it down for clarity. So before that, I'm going to close this guy. I'm selecting all the start of quarter, but let me calculate the selected KPI, selected metric. Right. So close this. Then I want to return. So what this does is that it returns for me the maximum, the selected metric I have, the maximum I have across the quarters of the year quarter. So the maximum I have across the year quarter. So I want to return that maximum value multiplied by probably a 5%. Let's try that. Let's try 5% and see how far it goes. So I'm gonna close this. Under the line charts, I'll come to the y-axis. The maximum. Ensure that you have this formatting option here. It's going to select max. Where is it? Y-axis max. Good. You see, it came down. So the way I'm looking at it, it's quite much. So we could adjust that. We just make it 0.05. That's like 0.05%. Let's see how far that goes. Okay, let's put 0.08. Okay, it's not bad. So let's do 0.01. Let's do 1%. Let's see. Okay, I think this is fair. We'll stick with this. Let's check for across the board. Okay, it's kind of high here, so we could still break it down a little. Okay, so this should work. So we are on track. So the next thing I want to do is to create a dynamic title for this chart. I'm just going to create a new measure. Since we already have our selected label, so I'm just going to put code title selected label. So I'm going to do, this is okay, total revenue or whatever metric selected, and I'll call it trend per quarter. So I already have that. So I'll just come here, that is general, give the new title. So let's make it 20. Okay, so as you can see, we are working with this dynamically, and we can see that we are arriving at all that we actually desire to arrive, and it's making a whole lot of sense right now. Okay, if you stay to the end of this video, thank you so much. Kindly drop a like, kindly subscribe to the channel, and turn on notification. Thank you for watching.